Hi, this is Steve Rozenberg with Mynd Property Management. I'm joined today with Kyle Stevens, who is the property manager for the San Diego operations for Mynd. And Kyle, thanks for joining us today.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you, Steve.
So Kyle, it's the new year. Obviously, rent control just passed, AB 1482. And as an investor, what are some things that you're seeing as far as the new law and things that maybe investors should know about pertaining to this law?
Yeah, totally. So, rent control as a whole, from a concept level, is a way for the government to control and limit the way that rent increases per year for residents living inside of a home. So from a landlord perspective, you must keep in mind that rent increases will be capped, averaging from around 7 to 8% increase per year for the next 10 years that the law is going to be in effect. No matter what, rents are capped at a 10% yearly increase. Basically, the way it works is that rent cannot go over 5% of the total rent plus inflation. So if there's a year with 6% inflation, it prevents a landlord from increasing rents up to 11%. So it is capped at a 10% mark. It can be situationally complex given the circumstances, which some landlords may not be aware of. So, being on top of the law is definitely important, I would say. It is also important to note that landlords need to be aware that the government does not basically police rent control. It's kind of one of those things that may be brought up in court proceedings by the residents living inside of the property. So not being on top of the law can kind of end up having you as a landlord, face potential court situations, attorney fees, monetary damages, and even jail time. So that's kind of my take on rent control here in the San Diego market.
And I'm guessing that it's kind of, it's upon the investor to know these laws that, if something happens, and I'm sure there's advocacy groups, for the tenants as well. And they basically, if the investor doesn't know the law, that's kind of on them. And it's kind of it's incumbent upon the investor to know this. So there was a lot of variables and a lot of numbers. Now, I'm assuming that there's something as far as backdating this as well, right? Because I understand they go back, and do you have to give the money back to the tenant if you've been charging them since a certain date, or how does that work?
Yeah, so it was backdated, but in terms of the actual rent control law, it did come into effect January 1. So I know in the future, every coming year that the tenants are still living in the home, this rent control law actually only affects residents living inside of a unit. It does not, pertain to new residents moving into a new rental property. So that being said, I know that rent control does affect the next coming years moving forward, but there was a back date as a part of the rent control as well.
Got it. And so are there other things that people need to know? Like, is this just single family, or is it a duplex involved, or how does that work? Because I know there are some variables in there, correct?
Yeah, there's plenty of variables. It kind of ranges from the type of home to single family home to, duplexes, for example. And also it depends on the year of the unit. I know homes that are 15 years old or newer is one of the exemptions from this law. So there's a lot of small,
Sure.
pieces of information that are important to note when actually dealing with rent control, because it doesn't affect every investor to every piece of property, no matter the age, no matter the area in California. There are a lot of, small pieces of knowledge that you should be keeping up to date. And I know in terms of the age of the unit, it must be 15 years old or older to actually come into the effect of rent control.
Interesting. So there's basically a lot of nuances that it's not a blanket policy of rent control is for everyone. There's some people that are exempt from it sounds like, and there's other people that, that maybe have to adhere to it. Now, let me ask you this. Are you seeing, and I know it's the beginning of the year, so it may be hard to tell, but are you seeing any investors kind of a little more skittish not to invest in San Diego or the surrounding areas because of this?
I would say that investors definitely are skittish because they're not really knowledgeable about what rent control is and how it affects them personally. I would say that San Diego is still a great market to invest in because of, the rising in home prices and the stabilization of rent median, average price. So I would say investors are still open to investing in the San Diego market. However, with rent control coming into effect, they are definitely more skittish, going back to your point in terms of how they want to proceed because they don't really have that knowledge of the law.
Great. Yeah. And just so you know, like if you're watching this video, make sure that you know the law because it's very important. And it's not a blanket law, as Kyle stated. There's a lot of nuances that you want to be aware of. And that's why, if you want to talk to someone like Kyle or someone at Mynd, you can do that and try to get a little more information so that you can make smart decisions. Kyle, if somebody wanted to get a hold of you and talk to you more about this in depth, how can they do that?
Yeah, totally. So you can reach us on our website. It's just mind.co, mynd.co. There's a contact link. You can go ahead and click that and search for our region and definitely contact me directly. You can also call in at 8334-MIND and contact our property management company that way and basically ask for me or someone in our region, and we'd be more than happy to speak with you.
Great. And for those of you that want to know more and be more engaged in real estate, we do have a Facebook group. It's the Mastermind Real Estate Investment Club. Again, Mastermind, MYND, Real Estate Investment Club. And there's a lot of people on there like myself and other people in the industry having conversations, discussing things. And this is how you can get more informed on constant up-to-date information and ask your questions that you may have. We also have a podcast show. It's called The Mindful Investor. And that podcast show comes out every week. It's on iTunes and Spotify and all other channels. And we have leading industry experts on the show talk about not only their successes, but also their failures and how they've overcome those failures to become successful on a daily basis. So on behalf of Kyle, Mind, and myself, I'd like to thank everyone for watching, and we'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.